You're lying on your back, staring up at enormous shapes moving above you. Sounds wash over you. Voices, laughter, a door slamming somewhere far away. Light pours through a window, and you feel warmth on your skin. You are learning faster right now than you ever will again. Your brain is building 1,000,000 neural connections every single second, and you will remember none of it. Not one face, not one sound, not one moment of warmth. Your brain didn't forget your first years, it destroyed them on purpose. Why would the most powerful learning machine in nature erase its own records? This isn't a glitch. It's one of evolution's strangest design choices. Sigmund Freud noticed it first. He called it infantile amnesia back in 1899. He thought we repressed those memories because they were too emotionally intense. He was wrong, of course, but he was right that something deliberate was happening. The real answer goes back millions of years, long before therapy couches existed. Imagine an early primate born into a world that wants to eat it. Every sound could be a threat. Every shadow could be a predator. This infant needs to learn everything about its environment, and fast. Which fruits are safe? Which animals are dangerous? Which adults can be trusted? The brain prioritizes learning the rules over remembering specific events. Think of it this way. You don't need to remember the fire that burned you. You just need to know that fire burns. The lesson survives. The memory gets recycled. The brain moves on. Today you do the same thing without realizing it. You know how to chew food without remembering a single meal that taught you. You recognize your mother's voice but can't recall the first time you heard it. Somewhere in your brain, those early experiences left fingerprints everywhere. They shaped your personality, your fears, your preferences, but the actual footage, gone, permanently overwritten. Evolution decided the footage wasn't worth keeping. Only the lessons mattered, only the wiring mattered. This is a trade-off that worked beautifully for millions of years, but to understand why, you need to see what's actually happening inside an infant's skull. A baby's brain is not a smaller version of yours, it's a construction site. Wires everywhere, nothing labeled, half the room's unfinished. By age 2, a toddler has roughly twice as many synapses as an adult. Twice. Let that land for a second. That sounds like an advantage. It's actually a problem. Too many connections means too much noise. Like signals get lost in the chaos. So the brain starts pruning aggressively. Connections that get used become stronger, thicker, faster. Connections that don't get used, eliminated, absorbed, gone. Neuroscientists call this synaptic pruning, and it's ruthless. Your brain is basically demolishing rooms to build better hallways, and memories from that construction period get demolished with them. But there's another culprit. The hippocampus, this seahorse-shaped structure, is your brain's memory filing system. It takes raw experience and converts it into long-term retrievable memory. Without it, experiences happen and then just vanish, like words written in water. Here's the problem. In infants, the hippocampus isn't finished yet. It's physically there, but functionally immature, still being wired. It won't fully mature until somewhere between ages 3 and 7. So for the first few years of your life, your memory filing system was basically offline. Experiences flooded in. They shaped you deeply, but nothing got filed properly. Wait, seriously? Yeah, the most critical learning period uses broken equipment. That's the part that catches people off guard. But evolution doesn't care about your scrapbook. It cares about your survival wiring. There's also the language factor, and this one is surprisingly powerful. Most of your earliest experiences happen before you had words to describe them. Memory and language are deeply tangled in the human brain. We encode memories partly through narrative. We tell ourselves the story of what happened. Without language, there's no story. Without a story, the memory has no scaffold. It's like trying to save a file with no file name and no folder. The data exists for a moment, then the system can't find it anymore. Now bring all of this into the modern world. We photograph every moment of our children's lives. First steps, first words, first birthday cake smeared across tiny faces. We build elaborate archives of moments our children will never access. Think about that. Your parents remember your childhood better than you do. They carry memories of you that you will never share. You existed. You felt things. You laughed and cried and were afraid. And that version of you left no testimony whatsoever. Here's where it gets stranger. Those lost memories still influence you today. Psychologists call this implicit memory. You can't recall it, but it drives behavior. A child who was held often develops a secure attachment style. A child who was neglected may struggle with trust for decades. Neither of them remembers why. Your emotional thermostat was set before you could spell your own name. And you have no conscious access to the calibration process. This is why therapy sometimes feels like archaeology. You're digging for something you can feel but can't see, something that was written into your operating system before the system started keeping logs. Modern parents now face an odd dilemma created by this ancient wiring. Everything they do matters enormously, and their child will remember absolutely none of it. The gratitude, if it comes, will be for things the child cannot name or place. Your brain is haunted by a ghost that is also you. So what does all this actually tell us about being human? It tells us that identity is stranger than we pretend. We assume we are our memories. We build our sense of self from the stories we can tell. But the foundation of who you are was laid in total darkness. No witnesses, not even you. You were there for the most formative period of your entire existence, and you missed it. Not because you weren't paying attention, because your brain chose to build rather than record. It chose architecture over autobiography. And honestly, it made the right call. You didn't need to remember learning to walk. You needed to walk. You didn't need to remember your mother's first lullaby. You needed to feel safe. The cost was your origin story. The benefit was you. Every human being on earth is walking around shaped by years they cannot access. Billions of people, all haunted by the same beautiful gap in their autobiography. We all begin with a chapter we can never read, and maybe that's not a flaw. Maybe that's the price of becoming someone. Your brain erased the scaffolding so the building could stand. You just have to trust that the architect knew what it was doing, even though the architect was also you, and you were asleep at the wheel. The first draft of your life was written by someone who no longer exists, and everything you are sits on top of their unsigned work. Somewhere in you, a baby is still building. You just can't hear them anymore.